Dr. Garner asked us to talk about our stories this week. How do we fit into God's perfect story? What is our story? And my players and my friends will tell you that I like to talk, so I have lots of stories. But what story is the most important one to tell you today? I wasn't really sure. So I decided to go to my Bible to find inspiration. 20 years ago, this past May, I graduated from York College, and I know what you're thinking. Man, she looks really good. Thank you, Bailey. Okay. I bought this Bible a few weeks before I graduated, and I asked my friends to write their name next to their favorite verse. I knew that when I left York College, I would need to take a little bit of college with me. I knew I would struggle. I knew I would lose my way, but this Bible would bring me back home whenever I needed it. I was looking for the perfect verse to help me with this morning's thought, and as I was flipping through 1 Corinthians, I found this little surprise. So, it looks like my niece Sophia was practicing writing her name. I probably should be upset that she wrote her name very legible in many parts of my Bible, but how cool is it that she's currently a sophomore here now, and I get to embarrass her just a little bit. You also wrote in the front cover, it was like, by Sophia, so I appreciate that too. All right, I don't know. I could possibly, make you guys run extra foul polls later, but, I won't do that. All right, so I found a verse in Philippians that my friend John Morton highlighted for me. It says, "For I am confident of this very thing, that he who began a good work in you will perfect it unto the day of Christ Jesus." This verse is important to me because it reminds me that God is constantly working on me. He's constantly adding to my story. But how did my story begin? What set off a chain reaction to bring me to this very day? And in order to find that out, we have to go way back. This is a picture of my parents, John and Yvonne Ariano, with Sophia. I couldn't find one with me, so Sophia gets another shout out. My parents are two of the most incredible people you will ever meet. They're amazing servants in our hometown. Shout out to Madeira. Cassie, no, Madeira. Okay, thank you. Okay, yeah. They raised me with some incredible morals. We didn't go to church a lot. We always went for special occasions, so baptisms, first communions, weddings, funerals, Christmas, and Easter. So I knew about Jesus, but he wasn't someone special in my life. He wasn't my friend. When I was in junior high, a really good friend invited me to go to church camp in Yosemite. For the first time in my life, I heard stories about Jesus in a way that made sense. I had so many questions. I couldn't wait to get home and share these stories with my parents, but they weren't impressed at all. Looking back on it now, I know that they were more embarrassed that their 12-year-old daughter understood the Bible better than they did. They took away my Bible and forbid me to attend the Church of Christ with my friend. But luckily, my brother John, who's almost 10 years older than me, was also attending the same church and told my parents that Sundays were now brother-sister day. To honor my parents, my brother took me to 8 o'clock Mass at the Catholic Church. We would then head to the Church of Christ and attend Bible class and worship. We did this for 6 months, but I'm a people pleaser, and I hated doing this behind my parents' back. In my culture, the oldest male or female is the head of the household, so I talked to my grandpa. He didn't like that my parents didn't know what we were doing, but he was amazed that my brother and I were so disciplined to attend both services, but he said he would fix it, and he did. He convinced my dad to attend church with us the following week. Dad continued to go to church with us for the next month and finally convinced my mom to attend. Almost a year later, they were both baptized, and they wanted me to get baptized on the same day. It was an answer to my prayers, but in that very moment, I realized that it was their story, not mine. It wasn't my time yet. The following summer, I went back to church camp. Our youth minister, Steve Kay, who I'm pictured with, could always tell stories in a way that made the Bible come alive. Bible stories were never boring, and he was the best storyteller. The previous summer, Steve and his family didn't come to camp. His daughter, Kristen, was very sick. Kristen lost her battle with cancer on July 24th, 1993, and in the summer of 1994, Steve and the family returned to camp. He was ready to share part of her story. Kristen spent the last week of her life putting Post-it notes on stuffed animals. All of her friends would get something to remember her by. Friends and family from all over the country were stopping by to spend time with her. On her final day, she was being visited by some of her friends, and she asked them to send in her parents. Like I said before, her dad was the best storyteller. He would often tell her stories of heaven, what it would look like, what she would see, what she would feel, every time giving her more and more peace. Kristen asked her dad to describe heaven one more time. When he finished telling her, she looked at her parents and said, "I'm going there now." She closed her eyes and she was gone. As soon as Steve was finished speaking with his lesson, I told my parents that I was ready to be baptized. I knew in that moment that someday I wanted to be as sure as Kristen Kay. Inscribed on her grave are the words, "She taught us how to live, how to fight, and how to die." I mean, how amazing is it that she knew without a doubt that she was going to heaven? We often hear stories about how to live, and they're incredible reminders. But Kristen's strength and her wisdom at such a young age taught me the most important lesson, how to die and gain the ultimate reward. Now fast forward many years, and without that commitment, I wouldn't have come to York College. My story began that day. 4 years ago, I started teaching freshman seminar. The students in my class are now seniors here at York College. The very first assignment in freshman seminar is a paper you have to write entitled, "Who is God?" or "What is God to you?" I always get lots of incredible answers, and this year was no different. But one answer stood out. One of my students wrote this line, "I often think that maybe God isn't meant for someone like me." And I thought, there's no way this person is alone in his or her thinking. There might be someone sitting in here right now wondering about this guy Jesus that we keep talking about. You might think you've done too many things wrong or you haven't done enough things right. And I'm here to tell you that God is meant for all of you. And I will say it a little louder for the people in the back. God is meant for all of you. And he is at work in your life right now. Don't be afraid to let him in. And I want to close today with reading in Philippians one more time. "For I am confident of this very thing, that he who began a good work in you will perfect it until the day of Christ Jesus." Be as sure as Kristen Kay. God bless.